What's going on, college basketball fans? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, with another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. Hope you guys have enjoyed the weekend. Hope you guys have been paying attention to these games and the implications of all these Big Ten teams and the games that are coming down to the wire. We've had some really good ones over the weekend, some wild ones, some wild stuff going on. So we'll get into that. But first off, like, share, and comment on this. If you're live, if you see the replay of this, please like, share, and comment, and hit the notification bell to alert you when I do go live, because the times at which I go live moving forward will be a little bit different because we're getting into NCAA tournament, college, or conference tournament situations. And so I'm going to come a little bit more frequently. So make sure that you hit the notification bell so you'll be alerted when I go live. So this week was interesting, like most of the weeks have been in this season that is the parity in the Big Ten. So let's start off here. Hoosiers in a big win over Purdue at Mackey Arena. Jalen Hood-Schifino was outstanding. When the rest of his teammates were struggling to score, he put up 23 points in the first half to keep them within striking distance of Purdue. Then Indiana came out in the second half and really got control and maintained control of that game for the last a good 17, 18 minutes. Jalen Hood-Schifino had 12 points in the second half. Trey Galloway was outstanding in his play, not only on the offensive end, but defensively. He was stout. Miller Kopp hit some shots. Trace Jackson-Davis was very patient. He was in foul trouble for most of the game. Ended up with 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. And here's a guy that's an All-American, and he doesn't get frustrated with foul trouble. And I'll talk about a freshman. Well, I won't name him, but there was a freshman that this past week was in a game that refused to go back into the game. And his team rallied to win, but it wasn't a good look. So I tip my hat to Trace Jackson-Davis for his professionalism, for his team-first attitude. He could be a guy that could be as selfish as any in the conference based on his previous output, his All-American status. But he is a team guy, and he continues to set the standard, in my opinion, for players around the country and how to approach the game. So Zach Edey was his usual dominant self, 26 points, 16 rebounds, but there was only one other player in double figures. That was Fletcher Lawyer with 14, but I believe he was 4 of 12 from the field. So Purdue had some decent looks, but just couldn't convert. And a lot of that was due to Indiana's defense and their intensity at which they brought to Mackey Arena. Mike Woodson had never won a game there. He was 0 of 4 as a player. He didn't win last season. So he experienced winning for the first time in Mackey Arena. So big ups to the Indiana Hoosiers, who now are in a second place tie. Let me pull up the Big Ten standings real quick. But big ups to Indiana for that victory, because now when you look at the race for the regular season, it's still, it's still 2-game lead for Purdue, but Maryland, Northwestern, Indiana, and Michigan are all 11-7, 2 games behind. And Purdue, with their remaining games, have to go to Wisconsin, which Wisconsin's had their struggles. We'll talk about the Badgers here in a little bit, but you still got to go to the Kohl Center, which is not an easy place to win. And then they host the head-scratching Illini, a team that can beat anybody in the country and can lose to anybody in the country, as witnessed over the weekend. So it's going to be interesting if Purdue wins their game at Wisconsin. They will at least clinch a share of Big Ten regular season title. So we'll see how they handle that. But Purdue has struggled a little bit, loses of their 3 of their last 4. So there's no givens here at the end of the Big Ten stretch. It's a grind, and teams are rising to the occasion, and others are faltering a little bit. Iowa roars back against Michigan State. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you were able to witness this game. I can't remember the gentleman that Robbie Hummel called the game with, but they've got a really good chemistry, and they play well off of one another. And coming down the stretch, it looked like Michigan State was in total control, up 12 with 1:30 left. And then I love Fran McCaffrey, and I'm not saying that because I call games for Big Ten Network and Fox, and we cover the Big Ten. I generally love the guy because I know him personally. I love him. But boy, he's got his antics, doesn't he? He gets teched up early in the game, and then down the stretch, in this stretch where it looked like Michigan State had control of the game, there's a timeout. And kudos to ESPN because they I can't remember where they were looking, but their producer and director saw what was going on. They put a camera right on the stare down. I know most of you all have seen it, but for those that haven't, Fran McCaffrey walks out of his team huddle and lines up directly across from referee Kelly Pfeiffer in an OK Corral stare down. It was the weirdest thing. It was funny, but it was a little weird because I've seen coaches that get technicals and they'll stare down a ref for a little bit, but this was during a timeout. And to Kelly Pfeiffer's credit, I give him a lot of credit. He held his composure. He could have teched Fran up and kicked him out of the game. He could have done that. He didn't. He held his composure, and when Fran walked 2 steps closer to him, he walked 2 steps closer to Fran, as in, I'm not going to get punked in this scenario. I don't give a damn how mad you are. I'm not going to get punked. And so kudos to Kelly Pfeiffer for keeping his composure, not teching Fran, which he very well could have, not teching up Fran McCaffrey, and allowing the situation to play out the way it did. Fran walked back into the huddle. Iowa rallies. They get to overtime. They win the game. Now, does Michigan State have an argument that there should have been a technical assessed and Fran kicked out of the game and that could have changed the whole complexion of the game? Sure. There's an argument for that. But in the moment, in the heat of the battle, with the history between Kelly Pfeiffer and Fran McCaffrey, I think is well documented. And the fact that what took place, and both men held their dignity, no technical foul, and Kelly Pfeiffer comes off looking, to me, the winner in that scenario. He really held his composure, held his ground. He didn't act emotionally. It was really something to behold. So if you guys haven't seen it, go back. It's on Twitter. It's on ESPN, I'm sure. Go back and look at the stare down between Kelly Pfeiffer and Fran McCaffrey. It was one of the funniest things I've seen in college basketball in a while. But that was a wild game. The Iowa Hawkeyes hit 5 threes in the last minute 12 to force overtime. And they weren't easy shots, ladies and gentlemen. They weren't like they were open threes. These were contested threes. And Iowa, they raised up and banged them down. Chris Murray had one. Peyton Sanford's three, I think, sent it to overtime. Tony Perkins hit a 3. I believe Connor McCaffrey got a 3. And maybe Peyton Sanford hit 2 in that stretch. I think he got 2. Murray had 1. Tony Perkins had 1. And Connor McCaffrey had a 3 to send it to overtime. And you could see when the Spartans got to overtime, Tom Izzo, he didn't get off the bench but twice in the overtime session. They were sick to their stomachs. And last thing I'm going to say about this, I kept, I watch everything. I watch body language. I look at stuff that most people don't look at. A.J. Hoggard comes to the free throw line smiling. Now, if you're going to smile in that scenario, you better damn well hit both of the free throws to seal the deal. I think he missed the first one. He hit the second one. Iowa comes down, hits the 3, goes to overtime. What the hell are you smiling for? This is crucial. Iowa had made a furious comeback. And he walks up to the line smiling. Now, like I said, if you hit him, okay, cool. You can afford to smile. But it's not normal that players go to the free throw line smiling. So that puts you in a different psychological mindset. And did it lead to him missing the first free throw of those two attempts? In my opinion, yes, because free throws are a ritualistic experience. And that's why the best free throw shooters go through the same routine before they release the shot. It's muscle memory, it's mental memory, and you want to have the same routine so you rest your heart rate, you get your breathing right so that you're not too nervous in a strenuous situation or a critical situation. So I just found that to be very odd by the veteran AJ Hoggard and kind of smiling because maybe it was something said from an Iowa fan, an Iowa player. I'm not sure. But I didn't like the fact that he went up to the line smiling because right when I saw it, I said, man, he better hit these two free throws. And sure enough, he didn't. So a case of what could go wrong did for Michigan State. Kudos to Iowa for getting it into overtime and then taking control of the game. So Iowa with a huge comeback win over the Spartans, one of the wildest games, 112-106 that I'd seen all season. The Maryland Terrapins dominated Northwestern yesterday in securing their undefeated Big Ten schedule at home at the Xfinity Center. No other team in the Big Ten can claim an undefeated season at home in the Big Ten. Hakeem Hart has been outstanding, averaging 18 points in his last 6 games. Jameer Young had yet again a nasty poster dunk, cut back door. Martinelli, the freshman from Northwestern, about 6'7", jumps. Jameer Young puts him in a hole. Like, it's just a nasty dunk on the run. Dante Scott was good. Don Carey hit some threes, which he had been struggling. Julian Reese quietly is playing as good as any big in the Big Ten right now. He's really playing well, and he's very, very efficient. So Maryland has roared into second place. Let me pull those up. I believe, once again, that's Michigan, Maryland, Northwestern, Indiana, and Michigan, all tied for second. So big ups to the Maryland Terrapins. Big ups to the Michigan Wolverines, who got a big, big win over Wisconsin. Hunter Dickinson hits a 3 right at the buzzer in regulation to force overtime. Michigan goes on to win. Doug McDaniel and Kobe Buffkin have been balling. Jet Howard was out with injury, but it didn't matter. Those two stepped up big time. Hunter Dickinson had some big assists, throwing out of the double team cross court to some open threes. So Maryland and Michigan trending upwards for sure. Now, this Illinois team, I don't know that Vegas knows what the hell they're doing. I mean, they're baffling. And Ohio State loses 14 of their last 15 games, although 60 to 70% of those were last couple minute type games. They were in a lot of those games. I called one last week where Penn State was able to beat them at home by 4 points, but it was a struggle. And Chris Holtman has been starting 4 freshmen, and they're really starting to grow. I mean, Bryce Sensabaugh and Bruce Thornton had been good all season. But Felix Akpar is starting to come on. I love Roddy Gale Jr. But Illinois, yet again, what's up with shooting the threes? Matthew Myers shot 11 shots. 10 of them were threes. And so if you go back and look at the Illini against Northwestern, they were down 37-19 at half. They come roaring back and win the game. I believe they scored 42 points in the second half. And what was happening, the threes were falling, especially for Terrence Shannon. But if the threes don't fall and you don't have a backup plan, what are you going to do? Because the threes weren't falling yesterday for the Illini. And so you score 60 points, and the starters are 6 of 24 from three. Dane Danger plays 9 minutes and doesn't score. I mean, so it's like you don't know what team you're going to get. Sometimes, Coleman Hawkins was the leading scorer yesterday. Sometimes Terrence Shannon is outstanding. Sometimes he's not. Matthew Meyer can look like one of the best shot makers in the Big Ten. And then sometimes some of the shots he takes, you scratch your head like, man, what was he thinking? Jaden Epps has been ice cold from three for most of February, or for like the last 3 weeks. So I don't know. And that's a disturbing loss to me, because now, I mean, it was disturbing that they got down 18 at home to Northwestern. Northwestern's a good team. I'm not taking anything away from the Wildcats, but you're not supposed to be down 18 points at home in a critical game. They were able to come back and win, but everything looks good when those threes drop. But when those threes don't drop, what are you going to do? You got dominated on the glass. I think Ohio State was plus 14 on the glass. Illinois did not get to the free throw line. So, you're shooting contested threes, they don't drop. Then you just, sometimes you're off balance defensively, so you give up layups. Bryce Sensabaugh had a nasty dunk on Matthew Meyer. So I don't know what to think. I really don't know what to think about this Illinois team. I said they could be a second weekend team, and I still believe that. They have the talent, and when things are rolling, they can beat a lot of teams. But damn, they can lose to a lot of people too. Because, I mean, I don't know. Losing by 12 at Ohio State, I don't know. Head scratcher to me. All right. Well, hold on. Let me not show that. Let's do this one. Wisconsin. All right. Here's where I'm going to talk about Big Ten teams that need work to do to get at-large bids for the upcoming NCAA tournament. So, Michigan, winners 6 of their last 8. Doug McDaniel has been balling. And Michigan, on most people's lists, are the either the last 4 out or the next 4 out. They're within striking distance because they've come down the stretch playing extremely well in spite of injuries. So Michigan has probably the toughest road of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Penn State, the 3 teams who are in bubble territory right now. They have the hardest road to hoe this last week. They've got to go to Illinois and to Indiana. Now, if they can win those 2 games, those are obviously quad 1 victories. And that may put them in the tournament, regardless of what they do in the Big Ten Conference tournament. Maybe. But we'll see if they can continue their winning ways, because this is a challenging last week. But they've been figuring out ways to win games. So big ups to the Michigan Wolverines. Big ups to Juwan Howard for preparing his young team and navigating injuries and a tough February slate to put themselves in position for a possible at-large bid. Wisconsin, the Badgers dropped a heartbreaker to Michigan. Hunter Dickinson catches the ball on the right sideline, launches a 3, nothing but cotton, forces overtime. Michigan wins in overtime. Chucky Hepburn goes out with an injury. So Wisconsin's got work to do. Now, most people have Wisconsin first 4 out. So they've got a wonderful opportunity with Purdue coming to the Kohl Center this week. If they can beat Purdue, I believe that would be enough to put them solidly in. If they don't beat Purdue, they have to win at Minnesota and probably need a game or 2 in the Big Ten Conference tournament in order to feel confident come Selection Sunday. So Wisconsin still with some work to do. maybe not as difficult of a road as Michigan, but with Purdue coming to your place, loses of 3 of their last 4, they're going to be really motivated to get back on the winning track. And then Minnesota's going to be playing with house money. They'll be at home. They're still a spirited bunch, regardless of the number of games they've lost and being in the cellar of the Big Ten Conference. I was really impressed when I was at shoot-around when Minnesota was at Maryland. You wouldn't know that was the last place Big Ten team. They're energized, energetic. They had fun. They were locked in. So that's not going to be a cakewalk for Wisconsin. So they've got a challenging week as well. Maybe doesn't look the same as Michigan, but challenging nonetheless. Boy, Penn State let a heck of an opportunity go. They had a 19-point lead on Rutgers. Rutgers fights back and wins 59-56. That one was a heartbreaker for Penn State because a lot of people had them first 4 in. So now they're probably first 4 out. And so we'll see. I've got the game, Penn State at Northwestern on Wednesday. That's a huge game, as is their last game of the season when they host Maryland. 2 quad 1 opportunities for Penn State. And if I'm Micah Shrewsbury and his crew, I got to lock those down, because if you're needing wins in the Big Ten Conference Tournament, as wild as this conference tournament is going to be, that's a tough scenario. But we'll see how they handle it. The good thing about the Big Ten Conference, and that trumps other conferences, in my opinion, is that up until the last week of the regular season, you still have wonderful opportunities to improve your resume. Thus, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Penn State have those opportunities. Let's take a look at nope, that's not what I wanted to look at. Let's look at Big Ten games to watch this week. So Iowa at Indiana tomorrow on ESPN2. Iowa's probably feeling pretty good about themselves, as is Indiana. Both teams coming off victories. Iowa hasn't traveled necessarily well with the way that they play. They're really tough to beat in Carver Hawkeye, but they haven't traveled well. We'll see what that looks like. Indiana really starting to find their rhythm and look like the team that was preseason favorite in the Big Ten. 3-1 Penn State at Northwestern. That's Wednesday on Big Ten Network. I'll be on the call for that one. Pretty much a do-or-die win for Penn State. Northwestern is comfortably in the tournament, but I'm sure they still want to fight for that double bye. They're tied for second place, and so the top 4 teams get a double bye in the Big Ten Conference Tournament. So that will be an interesting game. Thursday night, Michigan at Illinois. Obviously, Michigan playing for their tournament at-large lives, and Illinois trying to rebound off of a head-scratching loss to Ohio State. That same night, Purdue at Wisconsin. We talked about that game and the importance of that game for Wisconsin. And then Illinois at Purdue to close the Big Ten regular season on Sunday. That one will be on Fox. We'll see if Wisconsin beats Purdue at home, that game will decide the Big Ten regular season championship. Illinois at Purdue. Illinois not in the running for the regular season title, but those 4 teams, Michigan, Maryland, Northwestern. God, why I keep forgetting that? Maryland, Northwestern, Indiana, and Michigan all will have their sights set on that game if Wisconsin is able to beat Purdue earlier in the week. So those are the games to watch. You guys check out the Flying Illini Tumblr. I know that I had one of the tribe members ask me what the address is for the email to get this. It's shopcustomizeit.com. Customize. So it's shop, customize with a K, KUSTOMIZEIT.com to get yours today. Safe dishwasher safe. metal straws, so no plastics pollution. This one has been through the dishwasher a bunch of times, and you see the logos are still on here really, really well. So this is great. I got my lemonade today, so make sure you go to shopcustomizeit.com to get your Flying Illini tumbler. All right. And for those that want to be a member of the tribe, this is the inner circle of Bardo's Breakdown. You can text me. You can do it two ways. Text me at that scroll number on the bottom, 312-847-2739. That's 312-847-2739. Or you can join the email list, which there are over 660 people on that email list now. That's stephenbardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. Once again, stephenbardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. All right. Ooh, we got some questions here. We got some people chiming in. Let's see. Let's go with Carol Paquette. Carol's one of the tribe members, one of my best supporters. Love Carol. I was surprised I didn't catch you calling a game this past weekend. I had an interesting week of I'm moving around, Carol. I'm telling you, you can probably see in my eyes, they're a little tired because I've been moving around. But this weekend, you see, okay. I had DePaul at Marquette on Saturday. Then I had Northwestern at Maryland yesterday. So to give you guys a glimpse of what we go through this time of year, the game at Marquette was a 6:30 local start. Game's over at 8:30. I get back. It's about a 2-hour drive if you don't run into any traffic. It's around an hour 42, 2-hour drive. It's hard for me to go right to sleep after games, even if I've driven a little bit. So I get down around 11:30 midnight. I've got to get up at 4 a.m. because I've got to catch a 6 o'clock flight to Washington, D.C. to call a noon Eastern time. So that's 11 a.m. call for Northwestern at Maryland. So that's a tough turnaround. It was nerve-wracking. I was asked to get on that game. I was previously on the Rutgers at Penn State game. So the Rutgers at Penn State game, I was going to travel day of, but the window wasn't as tight. So if anything would have happened at that 6 a.m. flight, I would have been screwed. But thank the creator, it didn't. Went on without a hitch. That was the first time I've ever dressed in my suit and tie and all that I'm going to wear to a game. I had that on at the airport and flew out there, called the game. After the game, got something to eat, drove back to Reagan International, flew home. I was home by 8 p.m. So that was a whirlwind of a day, and that was a whirlwind of a weekend. So it's been fun. It's been exhilarating, and we've been having great games. So I've been enjoying it. What's up, Greg Boysaw? My blood pressure has been up and down last few weeks. Tim Ward, Steve Froschel, and Kevin Malone. Yeah, it's Greg. It's the team they're baffling. They don't have a lot of consistency. Would the Illini rather be an 11 seed over the 8? Monty Broten. Monty, I'm not sure. I think Illinois just wants to be seeded at this point. The way that they're playing and as inconsistent as they've been, I don't know that the seeding really matters at this point, but we'll see because it's coming up quickly. Indiana's streaking in the right direction. Can't say the same about anyone else. Well, Michigan's won 6 of their last 8, Curtis. Purdue's struggling a little bit, losers of 3 of their last 4. Penn State's been up and down. Wisconsin's been up and down. Maryland's been balling. Maryland's playing well, as is Northwestern. Even though Northwestern has dropped 2 in a row, they're still in second place and solidly in the NCAA tournament. What's up, Hoop Baller Scoop? Thoughts on Kobe Buffkin and McDaniel play of late? They both have been impressive to me. What's Kobe's NBA future looking like, or does he need one more year? Michigan goes as Doug McDaniel goes. When he's playing well and playing under control and not turning the ball over, Michigan's pretty good. So he and Kobe Buffkin has been, I think Kobe had 28 in the win over Wisconsin. He's really upped his game. I think Kobe has a future in the NBA. It's not next year, though. He may put his name in to see what NBA teams think of him, but I don't think that he's ready. I think he could use at least 2 more years, maybe another year, but I think he definitely has a chance to play at the next level, but I think that's a little far off. There are really no dominant teams in the Big Ten this year. There's a lot of good teams, but there's really not a dominant team. Even though Purdue had been dominant for most of the year, they've come back to earth, and they're getting exposed a little bit. I'll say Purdue's a really good team, and then there's a lot of good teams in the Big Ten. And so what you're seeing Michigan do against some pretty good good teams, but they're not elite teams. And so I haven't seen Kobe Buffkin go up against a Kansas or, a Houston or an Alabama or UCLA, teams who are national title contenders, and see how he handles the pressure and the elevated athleticism that he would face on the defensive end. That's what I need to see before I can really project what he's going to look like at the NBA level. But the level of improvement from last year to this year makes me think that this young man's a hard worker. So if he continues to put in the work like that, then I definitely think that he'd have a legitimate shot at playing at the next level. What's up, Melissa? Good to see you. What Big Ten teams are in the new top 25? Let's take a look. Oh, the top 25. Let's go over here. I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. Rankings. Here we go. So Purdue comes in at number 5. Indiana comes in at number 15. Maryland, new to the top 25 at 21. So you've got Purdue at number 5, Indiana at number 15, and Maryland at number 21. So 3 teams out of the Big Ten right now in the top 25. Not a ton of movement at the top. Houston, Alabama, Kansas, UCLA, and Purdue round out the top 5. Ladies and gentlemen, number 6, Marquette, who now have clinched at least a share of the Big East title. Watch the Marquette Golden Eagles. I've been talking about them. I'll have them tomorrow night. Marquette at Butler. They can clinch an outright title, a Big East title tomorrow with a win at Butler. That's a really good team, a very balanced team, one of the top 5 most efficient offensive teams in the country, and they're good defensively. So that's Shaka Smart's got a really good team there. So, Melissa, there you go. Purdue at 5, Indiana at 15, and Maryland at 21. Trace Jackson Davis is an All-American and classy young man. He has a bright future. I totally agree. Mike Waldboozer, can you comment on Illinois' slow first half performances? Any ideas to better starts? Don't shoot so many threes. Get the ball, have some offensive balance. Dane Danger had two shot attempts and played 8 or 9 minutes. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe, they didn't like him being possibly double teamed on the block. I'm not sure. But Dane Danger is a valuable piece to the balance offensively for Illinois. I know Brad Underwood likes to get Terrence Shannon in situations where he can get downhill in the paint to put pressure on opposing teams at the rim. But Dane Danger is really the only guy that's an effective post-up player for Illinois. And I know the game is, evolving in pace and space. The NBA is already totally pace and space. The Big Ten Conference is a little bit of an outlier nationally because of the the plethora of quality bigs. But Dane Danger, to me, I don't know what's going on, but he needs more shots. He needs more attempts. He needs more time. And so to me, if you were to have a nice balance offensively instead of jacking up threes, if you had a nice offensive balance of twos and threes, because Illinois is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country, but they're one of the best two-point shooting teams in the country. Go figure that. So maybe that would help, Mike. I'm not sure. Yes, I'm doing Butler Marquette tomorrow. I think that's JD Allen. What's up, JD? Ron Charles. What's up, Ron? Was that Michigan State choke job versus Iowa the biggest choke job you've seen in the last 10 years? I had to go back and watch the end because I was in disbelief how they blew that game. It was one of the most surprising finishes I've seen in a long time, Ron. I have to admit. I won't call it a choke job because Iowa had to hit those threes, and they were contested. They weren't like they were shooting open threes. They had a hand in their face, and there was a little bit of pressure because they were trying to get back in the game. But what was lost in that performance is the fact that Tyson Walker has emerged as one of the premier players consistently in the Big Ten Conference. He had 31 points. He was outstanding. And anytime that you score 98 points, I think it was in regulation, you're supposed to win that game. And Michigan State controlled that game for the better part of 48 minutes, but you tip your hat to the Hawkeyes. I won't call it a choke job, Ron, because that's not vocabulary I like to use. But it was definitely one of the wildest comebacks I'd seen in a while. Joseph Hayden, this is the most frustrating team I've seen. Love them no matter what, though. I hear you, Joseph. And I want to remind Illini fans, because I go back and forth between analyst and alum, analyst and former player. So, I got some pride with the program. There's a little bit of frustration, but I'll take this team over John Gross's teams any day. And no knock on John Gross, but those are difficult years, frustrating years. At least this team has beaten some of the best teams in the country. They've had some exhilarating victories, but man, that Ohio State loss, I don't know. That's that one is baffling to me, Joseph. I'll leave it at that. But I love the passion. Thanks for tuning in. Michael Payne. What's good, Michael? Michael Payne is a former Iowa Hawkeyes great. I would have loved to play for Fran. Everybody would love to play for him. That's not the issue. The issue is not whether the dude can coach. He's an offensive guru. But Fran McCaffrey, I believe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he's going to continue to get away with this. I don't know that we'll see a stare down in the future. I think that was just there was a boiling point that I think it boiled over from the frustration that Iowa was under because they were getting dominated at home. Michigan State really had control of that game. Fran got teched up early in the second half. And I think that was a culmination of just a lot of frustration that came out at that time. But no one is knocking Fran McCaffrey's coaching ability because the dude can flat out coach. He and his staff have an eye for talent that a lot of people miss. And they end up coming to Iowa City and developing into All-Americans. We've seen it over and over again in Fran's 13-year tenure. And so Michael Payne, Michael played for Lute Olson, the late, great Lute Olson. And Mike was a great player at Iowa. And he said, I would love to play for Fran. I would too. Don't you think Fran should have gotten teed for the stare down? Yes. I like the guys. I've seen him at the Final Four Fest 2019. Fran's a great dude. He's Philly through and through, right? He's a legend in Philly. If you go to Philadelphia, you with Fran McCaffrey, you ain't paying for nothing. That dude, he's a legend. And he's a great guy. I mean, I've known a lot of people that have gotten to know Fran or that know him back in the day or that have coached with him or coached against him or whatever. You're not going to get anybody to talk negatively about Fran other than his behavior around officials. That's really the only thing you can knock him on. His teams win. They play exciting brand of basketball. He develops players. He puts guys in the NBA. He puts guys overseas. They graduate players at Iowa. There's not much more you can really ask. But in today's era, coaches that have that type of demeanor towards officials, that's not going to be good moving forward. But we'll see what happens. But no, he's definitely cool. CD NIU. Thanks for tuning in. Who baller scoop? The Hoosiers, I might get killed for this. Might make a deeper run than Purdue. Am I crazy for thinking this? No. I love Mike Woodson's coaching. Purdue has it's hard to be as dominant as Purdue was for as long in the season as they were. They were dominant. And what happens is you play enough games, you play different styles, and you play different teams, and now you got film. And then when you struggle in certain areas, people try to highlight those struggles. They try to put you in situations. They try to put the Boilers in situations where those struggles can reappear, i.e. put pressure on those freshman guards, i.e. what Northwestern did to Edey in the second half. Some think that they were fouling Edey, but they were double teaming him hard as hell, and it was forcing turnovers. So that's what happens in Big Ten play, Big 12 play, SEC, Big East, whatever major conference you want to go to. The longer you go in conference play, your warts and your weaknesses will be highlighted and exploited. So, Purdue's got some work to do to right the ship, to get back into the dominant form that we grew to see them as of 2 or 3 weeks ago. But to think that Indiana can make a deeper run than Purdue in the tournament, I don't disagree with that. I think Indiana has the personnel. It's going to be fascinating to see what Mike Woodson does when Xavier Johnson returns. He's got to come off the bench. I know they'll probably play he and Jalen Hood-Schifino together at the same time. But the chemistry right now for the Hoosiers is at an elite level. And hopefully Xavier Johnson can come back in and only add to that and not take away from that. Do you think you should foul when you're up 3? There was a lot of game-winning shots or game-tying shots this weekend. Michigan, Arizona State, Iowa, Florida State. Here's CD NIU. This is my philosophy on that. If you've practiced it as a team, yes, foul in that scenario. If you haven't practiced it, play straight-up defense, because college basketball players, if there's a mistake to be made in the last second, they'll make it. If you haven't practiced it and you're trying to do something on the fly, that's a recipe for disaster. You do not want to do that. So I would practice fouling if I'm up 2. Or, even if I'm up, no, you can't foul when you're up 3, because then you get 3 free throws if you're shooting a 3. If you're up 2 and you practice it, yes, foul. But if you don't practice those scenarios, you got to play straight up. And I mean, the shot that the young man, Desmond Cambridge hit from Arizona State, oh man, that's a once in a lifetime shot. It was behind the half court line. It hit numbers net. I mean, this is an unbelievable shot. The Peyton Sanford shot that Iowa hit, there was a hand in his face. I didn't see the Florida State Miami game, but I heard that was a heck of a finish as well. So, and then Hunter Dickinson, I mean, he's 7 foot. I don't know how many people were really going to bother that look. And it was a scramble play. It was a weird, funky spot that Michigan had to inbound the ball, and they almost didn't get it in. So that was a helter-skelter type play. So I don't know. I'm of the mindset, if you practice those scenarios, then yes, you foul. If you don't practice them, you got to play straight up defense. What's up, Thomas Dagley? Good to see you. No leadership, no consistency, and no fight. Our last two games are looking like probable losses. I would agree, Thomas, because Northwestern was dominant in the first half. And kudos to the Illini. They came back and they played with a sense of urgency, with their hair on fire. The threes were falling, and they looked good. And they dropped 42 points in the second half. But against Ohio State, the effort wasn't there. I think their shot selection was poor. And I think they took Ohio State lightly. I think they came in and they may not have been ready to play, and Ohio State took it to them. So, yeah, they're head scratching for sure. Let's see. Linnea Jones, is when are they going to be consistent? When is this so-called run coming? I watched them. They can shoot well from three. They turn the ball over, and they get nothing inside from the bigs. High five. They beat Indy, but maybe it's more wishful thinking than a run is coming. Well, Linnea, I've got history on my side with Tom Izzo. I'm not counting them out. Think about this. Iowa needed 5 threes in pretty much in a minute. 5 threes. And it wasn't like Michigan State missed a bunch of free throws when they got fouled. I believe Hogard missed 1. So he was 3 or 4. Walker was 2 of 2. I mean, they were hitting their free throws. It was just Iowa was hitting threes and they hit 2s. Or they were hitting free throws. So, I mean, if you look at the last 2 games, they beat Indiana at home and then they go to Iowa and really control that game for 48 minutes. That's pretty good to me. Carol said, I saw A.J. Hogard smile. I told my boys one of the Iowa players must have said something to him. May have been one of the players or a fan or something like that. What's up, Gary Haynes? I didn't click it. Northwestern looked tired at Maryland. Gary, Maryland has a way of making a lot of teams look tired in Xfinity Center. The way that they play, the way they get after you, the pressure, switching defenses, their guards are really – they've got rangy guards. Don Carey's about 6'5", rangy. Hakeem Hart can guard wings and guards. He's 6'8". Jameer Young is really strong and quick. And so they might have been tired. They may have been tired, but Maryland exacerbated their tiredness because of the way they get after you. And that crowd in that Xfinity Center is wonderful. Curtis Dietz, is Purdue still a number 1 seed? Looks like UCLA might snag that last one. I'm not sure, Curtis. I don't really – if you guys notice, I'm not really big into the seeding because it's going to flip-flop. And I get it. We talk about – I want to talk about bubble teams more than the seeds because the seeding doesn't matter to me. If you're a 1 or a 2, it doesn't really matter. If you're people were like, oh, if you're 11 or 12 seed or, you're 8 or 9 seed and you get the number 1 seed, it doesn't matter. You got to beat good teams. So I'm not sure if Purdue's going to maintain a number 1 seed or not, but I know that they have lost 3 of their last 4. So Painter and his staff are probably going back to the drawing board trying to rectify some of the things that have gotten them in trouble in their last few games. Janetta Johnson. This is a good point, Janetta. Don't you feel that at times when teams get out of their conference, they could play better? ? What teams would you say in the Big Ten could make a long run in the NCAA tournament? I think Maryland is a team that can get to a second weekend. I think Illinois is a team that can get to a second weekend. I think Michigan State, given the right set of circumstances with where is it? Yeah, I think I still believe in Michigan State in the NCAA tournament with their veteran guard play. I'm not so sure about Northwestern because they're so guard laden. And you saw yesterday that Boo Buie really didn't have a good game offensively. He had a season low 4 points. and Northwestern outside, Audige had a good first half. Then they put the clamps on him in the second half, and Northwestern just can't generate enough offense if those two aren't having big games. So Northwestern, I'm a little leery on. Iowa, defensively, they scare me a little bit. They're not very consistent defensively, so that's usually a problem in NCAA tournament. Rutgers, before Mawat Mag had his season-ending knee injury, I thought that they could be a team that could win a couple games just based on their depth, their length across the board, their versatility. But Mawat Mag's injury has really hurt them. They rallied yesterday impressively. They were down 19 in the second half, came back and won on the road at Penn State. So that gives you a sense of what they can do. But they've been a little inconsistent since that injury. So those are the teams that I think could do something in the NCAA tournament. Purdue, Purdue could definitely get to the second weekend, but a Final Four run, I'm a little leery to put my name on that. Okay, Thomas Dagley, this is interesting. Why do you feel like Brad Underwood doesn't have control of his team? There's something I want you to think about, Thomas. Chemistry is something else, and I failed chemistry from a book standpoint. I hated chemistry. Me and chemistry did not get along. It was like a foreign language to me. But I'm a chemistry guy in real life. On the court, when I played with the people that I work with for the different networks that I work with, I'm a team player. Chemistry is huge. And if your chemistry isn't good, there's not a whole lot the coach can do. So what do I mean by that? Since you all have joined me and given your time, I'm going to give you some insight that I see that I have not shared before. When I look at this Illinois team, they touch each other about the least amount that I see any other big team touch each other. What do I mean by that? Fist pump, high five, come together, hug, dap, go help somebody out, go encourage them, get in their ear, talk to them. I don't see the Illini doing that a lot. Matthew Myers seems to be a guy that, I don't know, he looks like sometimes he has social issues, like he's uncomfortable sometimes socially, and so his interaction with his teammates seems to be a little different. Like he'll make a great play and maybe one guy will come in and it'll be a half-ass hand tap or something like that. And it's like, I'm always like, this is strange. Jaden Epps is a stoic. He's got a stoic demeanor. So you don't know whether he's pissed off or he's happy. And he's not real, he's not real, touchy-feely. I love Sincere Harris. I love his energy. He's dapping guys. Ty Rogers is good in terms of dapping guys, giving guys encouragement. Terrence Shannon's pretty good at that. But there's a couple guys, and Coleman Hawkins is for the most part, but sometimes he gets in a funk. Dane Danger's a little bit more to himself. And so he's not a guy that daps up a lot. So this Illinois team, from a chemistry standpoint, I don't know. They may have some questions. I'm not going to put this on Brad Underwood. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to put on Brad Underwood is their shot selection, because he can control that. I will put that on him. The personality of his team, they came that way. Their individual personalities, and can they blend? I don't necessarily put all that on Brad and his staff. That has something to do with the players as well. So, but strong point. Thanks for joining, and thanks for sharing that. Gary says, what is Brad thinking? Guys, you got to remember, if you look at past Illini teams down the stretch under Brad Underwood, they've all gotten better. And those were all different teams. One was Ayo Dosunmu-led team. One was a Kofi Coburn or Trent Frazier-led team. And this is a totally different team. And we thought that when they started to pick it up at the beginning of February, okay, here's the normal progression. of Illinois teams under Brad Underwood. So right now we're not seeing that normal progression. I'm a little reluctant to blame Underwood for that, because I've seen the number of changes just this year that he's had to implement with this group. And I also heard that Jay Nepps didn't. I was really upset with this, because in the Northwestern game, when they're making a rally, Jay Nepps didn't even get up to cheer his team on. That's BS. You cannot do that. I don't give a damn how mad you are. You cannot do that. As a freshman? Come on, man. You can't do that. If you're having a bad game and you get benched, there's not a coach in the country that's going to bench a kid that's not going to help him win games. If you're off that night and you can't help the team win, according to what the coach thinks, as a player, you may disagree with that, but there's not a coach at this level that will ever keep a player off the floor that's going to help them win games. It's simple as that, right? Or in RJ Melendez's case, he gets suspended for a game because of violation of team rules. He doesn't play, but he knows that going in. But when I see players and your team is making a run and you sit there pouting on the bench, I don't like that. That points to your character. That's not good. And I'll give Epps a pass because he's a freshman, and maybe he needs to learn some of those lessons. But that is not a good look for you not to want to go back in the game because you're pissed off about what the coach says or that he pulled you out. And I got that intel from outside of the Illinois program. I got that from someplace else that's accurate. So that's not acceptable. So just that little piece, because the latter part about him not going back in the game, I found out later. I was watching the game, and I saw him sitting next to Fletcher, the strength coach, and he would not get up and cheer. And I know Fletcher was trying to talk to him, trying to get him more involved and whatnot, but that's not – you can't do that. You just cannot do that. Let's see. Oh, sure, CDNIU. Illinois jumped on teams from the start. Yeah, I've seen that several times this season. They have the ability to do that. And, oh, come on, Alan Rubenstein. That's strong, Alan. Come on now. Really? Coach underwhelming and fraudulent Illini? Were they fraudulent when they beat UCLA and Texas? Were they fraudulent when they came from 18 behind to beat Northwestern? Coach underwhelming? Do you know how many times Brad Underwood has had to change things? They've totally changed the offense. They've changed what they do defensively. They've changed their rotation. And they had to change their offensive sets to get Terrence Shannon different looks at different times of the game, to get Matthew Meyer looks at different times of the game. Coach underwhelming? Come on now. I don't know about that. I mean, let me back up. Alan, thank you for your strong stance and your opinion. I disagree with your opinion, but thank you for sharing that. I don't want to admonish people for what they believe because that's what you believe, and I appreciate you being strong enough to say that. But I was like, ooh, Coach underwhelming and fraudulent Illini? That's strong. Dave Crosby. Get to the hoop. I'm with you on that. Imani Williams, how much of that Michigan State loss is on Tom Izzo? Did Tom Izzo step to the line smiling and miss a critical free throw that could have sealed the game? Nope. Tom Izzo had them up 12 with under 2 minutes left. No, that's not on Tom Izzo. Samuel Hicks, Illini didn't take Ohio State seriously and it bit them in the butt. You can't take any Big Ten team lightly, and the Illini still have not seemingly learned that yet. Samuel, great point. I agree. You know, you can't think you're just going to show up and win. This league is too competitive. And, you know, Dane Danger was around the program when he came in from Baylor, so he practiced, but he never played. and you think he would pick up on some of that. And I'm not pointing at Dane as not being ready to play, but my point is that when you start Dane Danger, Terrence Shannon, and Matthew Meyer, those three are from a totally different conference. And in that conference, you better strap it up every night. And I don't know why you would think that you come to the Big Ten and do any differently. So I don't know if they've learned their lesson, Samuel, but we'll find out soon. Tyson Walker hits a lot of tough shots for Michigan State. My question is, does he have an NBA future? I don't know that Walker is athletic enough. At that size, you've got to be a freak athletically. I don't know that he's athletic enough. Because he really combo guards for Michigan State. And at the NBA level, can he run the point guard position? I think he's small for a point guard at the NBA level, let alone being a combo guard. So if I had to bet, I would bet against it. But I love the young man. I wish the best for him. Wisconsin should have fouled to make that three not have been possible. Head scratcher that was. Well, okay, Monty, here's the thing. When you're defending in that scenario, you're told, okay, guard the three-point line. We're going to switch everything. If you go back and look at that play, and I can't even remember who was inbounding the ball, but the inbounds position was really funky. It was a really weird – it was almost in the corner where the sideline and the baseline meet. So it was a really tough angle. And Michigan was running this stuff, and Wisconsin did a great job in the first couple actions. And all they had left to do was to throw it up and hope that Hunter would first get it from the Wisconsin defender and then try to get a three off. So I don't knock Wisconsin's defense at all. I think it was great. I think it was solidly done. It's just a hell of a play. Sometimes offense trumps great defense, and I think that was the case in this particular play. Andy Moss, can you explain why oops, sorry about that, guys. That was my phone. Can you explain why the Illini are allowed to shoot so many threes? Are they not listening to the staff, or is this the kind of basketball the staff wants to play? I think the staff wants to allow them to shoot threes. Brad Underwood is a big analytics guy, and so I think that people that really believe in that three-point shot, they believe that even if you have a lower percentage at three, it equates to a higher percentage from two. But it's a little baffling. Again, like I said earlier, Illinois, one of the best shooting teams from two-point land in the country and one of the worst from three. So obviously it's a part of the game that the coaching staff want to utilize. But I'm always baffled that when you go your first 15 and you're 2 for 15, well, maybe you don't want to shoot as many threes. Maybe you want to try to get to the bucket or get to the free throw line at least. But that's just me. And I've not been paid to coach at that level. So it's just my opinion. Okay, Hoops Nation thinks the Illini may have a good run to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. They just got to get out of conference play. Could be right. Could be right. Could be right. Great question, CD and IU. I'm going to say it because it's just my opinion. It's not the opinion of the networks or the Big Ten Conference. The Big Ten especially gets hurt by their conference tournament placed where it is because the champion, it doesn't move the needle on seeding or anything like that. All it does is just it just wears the Big Ten teams out, and they get less time to prepare for the NCAA tournament. And you think a day would make a difference? It wouldn't make a difference. It makes a huge difference. The Big 12 finishes on Saturday. Who's won 2 of the last 3 NCAA championships? The Big 12. They end on Saturday. They don't go all the way to Sunday, and they don't go late Sunday into Selection Sunday. Now, that's a money thing for the conference. That's never going to change. So the Big Ten is going to have to figure out a way to overcome that. But conference tournament play earlier games make a difference, but the latter ones, the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, I don't think they make that big of a difference. I really don't. Unless it's for a team like Penn State, Wisconsin, or Michigan, who have been last four out, first four in, next four out, that in that range, the bubble range. But I don't think it carries much weight outside of that. Now, I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. But great question. Thank you for that. Let's see. Could we play ourselves? Greg Boysaw, could we play ourselves out of the NCAAs not getting wins the next 2 weeks? It's unlikely. Anything's possible, Greg. I think that they're solidly in, even if they did not have a good week and maybe stub their toe in the Big Ten Conference tournament, but anything's possible. So we'll have to wait and see. I haven't heard from Lyle Clark. After Ohio State loss, we could easily lose next 3 and not even get 20 wins. Do we still make the tournament? Kind of same question as Greg Boysaw. I think the Illini are fine in that regard. I think they're in. The more important aspect for me is to figure out some consistency. If they found some consistency, that'd be a mute question. I think Shaka Smart is the national coach of the year. That's how highly I think of the coaching job that Shaka Smart has done at Marquette. Marquette, I believe, was preseason 9th in the Big East. And tomorrow they'll have a chance to win it outright. And here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. All of their players can return next year. All of them have their eligibility. That's a young team. And they're kicking people's behinds in the Big East. And they play a style of play that can go deep in the tournament because they're very versatile offensively. They've got Cam Jones, he can torch you for 30 if you're not careful. Tyler Kolek is one of the best point guards in the country. He's second in the nation in assists, and he can get you for 20, 25 if you're not careful. Stevie Mitchell is one of the best on-ball defenders in college basketball. Oso Iguodaro is one of the most unique bigs in all of college basketball. Omax Prosper is a rangy, athletic, hard-playing forward. David Joplin's one of the best three-point shooters in the Big East, comes off the bench. They've got it all. Ben Gold is playing better. He's 6'11", comes off the bench, can space and shoot a 3. So Marquette is tough, and I think Shaka Smart could be National Coach of the Year, not just Big East. I think the most losses in the 20-game I think the most losses is 6 for a Big Ten Conference champion. I think the most losses is 6. Purdue right now with 5. So we'll see about that. But I think it's 6, if I'm not mistaken. Let me get to somebody else here. Ooh. Captain Fletcher, Michael Hogg. Let's see. Oh, we're having conversation. All right, so these guys are conversing amongst themselves on the show here. So I'm gonna wrap it up. But thank you guys for tuning in. As always, it's always a pleasure to come to you and provide this. Anthony DeSanti, who is a sports producer. I worked with him yesterday. He said he watches Bardo's Breakdown all the time. For those of you that watch Bardo's Breakdown, you really like it, please subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel. It helps the growth of the channel. Like and share and comment and share it with other people who you think like this detailed college basketball information, focusing in on the Big Ten Conference. I really want to help grow it organically. The Tribe, I'm about to roll out some subscription-based opportunities for the Tribe to get more detailed information in the off season with interviews, with NIL updates, with recruiting updates. So you don't want to miss those. So join the tribe. Text me 312-847-2739 or join the newsletter. Let me jump over here. Join the newsletter at stephenbardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. Thank you guys for watching Bardo's Breakdown. Last week of the regular season of the Big Ten Conference. Follow next week, Big Ten Conference Tournament. Week after that, NCAA Tournament. So we're in the heat of things. I thank you all for tuning in. If you have comments and you watch the replay, go ahead and comment. I'll check back in and answer your questions as they come up. And until next time, y'all, holla, y'all.